It hasn't been an easy fight. ISIL is making its last stand in its last pocket of territory in Syria. The Syrian Democratic Forces launched a final assault on Baghouz on Friday, but the offensive has since slowed down. The Kurdish-dominated force blames the armed group of continuing to use civilians as human shields.
We are taking into consideration the possible presence of civilians who are with the terrorists and are being used as human shields, or even families of ISIL fighters who decided to stay with the terrorists. Our forces are on the battlefield and they notice the presence of civilians. That is why they are taking necessary measures.
It's not clear how many people remain inside the tiny enclave, but last week thousands were transported out of Baghouz, mainly women and children, families of ISIL fighters. The exodus worsened what was already a humanitarian emergency. The new arrivals, weak, hungry and tired, were brought to an overcrowded camp. The population of El Hol in northeast Syria is now over 55,000. Aid agencies are overwhelmed.
There are still so many new arrivals coming in, and the aid agencies are doing the best they can, but we weren't prepared for the number that are arriving, so we're struggling with having enough tents. We have found more than 40 children that have been separated from their parents during the journey, so we have been able to reunify several of them, but the needs are immense.
81 deaths have been registered, many from hypothermia, almost two-thirds of them infants. Some died on the way to the camp, others shortly after reaching it.
4 years ago, ISIL controlled 88,000 square kilometers of territory from Syria to Iraq and ruled over 8 million people. But it was in 2017 when the armed group began to lose major cities in both countries in separate offensives by different players.
The latest battle against ISIL was launched by the US-backed SDF in September, and the target was its strongholds in the Euphrates Valley. Many ISIL fighters have surrendered, many of them foreigners. An unknown number are still inside Baghouz. The US-led coalition says many are hiding in tunnels. Losing Baghouz would be a symbolic blow to the armed group, but it will continue to be a security threat. Many fighters have slipped into Iraq, and others are in the desert in eastern Syria.